The entire ballroom went silent the second the red wine hit her face. It poured down her hair, soaked into her silver dress, and splattered across the marble floor while dozens of wealthy guests stared in shock. Then came the laughter, loud, cruel, entitled. The young man holding the empty glass smirked like humiliating her was the highlight of his night. "You should have stayed where you belong," he said. "People like you don't fit in here." What nobody in that room realized was that the woman standing there, dripping in wine and humiliation, had the power to destroy every corrupt secret keeping that university alive. And before the night was over, she would. Marina Cole stepped out of the black sedan and looked up at the glowing entrance of Sterling Heights University. Cameras flashed along the staircase, while donors and politicians climbed toward the grand ballroom in tuxedos and glittering gowns. Everything about the place screamed power. The marble columns, the gold banners, the carefully rehearsed smiles. Marina adjusted the sleeve of her dark silver dress and quietly observed the crowd before walking inside. She moved with calm confidence, but her eyes noticed everything. The nervous student workers rushing trays between guests. The administrators laughing too hard at donor jokes. The security guards standing straighter whenever rich families approached. Sterling Heights wasn't just a university. It was a machine. And machines like this always hid rot beneath polished surfaces. A waiter offered her champagne. Marina declined with a polite smile and took sparkling water instead. Tonight mattered too much for distractions. Officially, she was attending as a guest advisor from the National Ethics Commission. Unofficially, the board had already selected her as Sterling Heights' next executive dean. The announcement would come later that evening. Only a handful of people knew. The current president, Arthur Bennett, had personally asked her to stay quiet until after the gala. "Observe first," he'd told her during their phone call days earlier. "You need to see this place before you try to change it." Marina intended to do exactly that. Across the ballroom, laughter exploded near the center bar. A group of young men in designer suits stood surrounded by guests who clearly tolerated them because of their family names. At the center stood Chase Holloway. Tall, perfect haircut, expensive watch. The relaxed arrogance of someone who had never faced consequences in his life. His father, Leonard Holloway, practically owned half the university through donations and political connections. Chase lifted a whiskey glass while telling a story loudly enough for half the room to hear. "So the professor says I failed the final," he laughed. "2 hours later my dad calls the department chair and suddenly I pass with honors. Amazing how education works." His friends burst into laughter. Several nearby donors smiled awkwardly. Nobody challenged him. Marina watched quietly from across the room. Chase glanced at her briefly before dismissing her entirely. Middle-aged woman. Standing alone. Not important. Exactly the mistake Marina wanted people to make. Near the orchestra stage, 2 trustees whispered beside a table covered in white roses. "The board wants stability," one muttered, "not another reform fanatic." "The new dean better understand who keeps this place funded," the other replied. Marina sipped her water slowly. Interesting. Very interesting. At the far side of the ballroom, Chase had already grown bored. The gala lacked entertainment. His attention drifted back toward Marina. Something about her composure irritated him. She didn't seem impressed by anyone in the room. People like Chase hated that. "Who's she?" he asked one of his friends. "No clue," another replied. "Probably some consultant or diversity executive." Chase smirked. "Watch this." He grabbed a full glass of deep red wine from a passing tray despite the server's protest. "Sir, those are for the head table." My family paid for the table, Chase snapped. Relax. His friends immediately pulled out their phones. They sensed a scene coming. And Chase loved an audience. Marina stood near a sculpture display, reading a plaque about donor contributions, when she felt the shift in the air behind her. Years spent investigating corruption had sharpened her instincts. She knew trouble when it approached. But she didn't move. Didn't turn. Didn't react. Chase crept closer with exaggerated stealth, while his friends struggled to contain laughter. The wine hovered above Marina's head. Then he tipped the glass. Cold liquid exploded across her hair and shoulders. The dark red wine drenched her dress instantly, dripping down her neck and staining the silver fabric crimson. Gasps shot across the ballroom. Music stopped mid-note. Conversations died. Phones lifted immediately. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Marina remained perfectly still. Wine slid slowly from her jawline onto the marble floor. Drip, drip, drip. Chase laughed loudly, spinning the empty glass between his fingers. "Lighten up," he said. "This party needed excitement." His friends howled. One donor chuckled nervously before realizing nobody else found it funny. Several guests turned away, pretending not to notice. Nobody stepped forward to help her. Nobody offered a napkin. Nobody challenged him. Marina slowly turned around. The movement alone changed the energy in the room. Her eyes locked onto Chase. No anger. No panic. Just cold evaluation. The kind that made people suddenly aware of themselves. Chase's grin weakened slightly. "What?" he said defensively. "It was a joke." Marina took one calm step toward him. Wine dripped from her dress onto the marble behind her. Another step. Another. "You enjoy humiliating strangers?" she asked quietly. Chase shrugged. "You look too serious." The room remained frozen. Marina stopped directly in front of him. "Tell me something," she said softly. "Would you have done this if you believed I mattered?" Chase frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means men like you only respect people you fear." His friends stopped laughing. The tension felt wrong now. Heavy. Dangerous. Chase tried forcing a grin. "You're overreacting." "Am I?" Marina tilted her head slightly. Wine slipped from her hair onto her shoulder. "You publicly humiliated someone for entertainment because you assumed there would be no consequences. That says more about your upbringing than it does about me." A few guests exchanged uncomfortable glances. Chase's face reddened. "You don't even know who I am." Marina's eyes never left his. "Oh, I know exactly who you are." Before Chase could respond, a voice cut through the crowd. "What is happening here?" University President Arthur Bennett pushed through the guests. Horror spreading across his face the moment he saw Marina soaked in wine. His expression completely changed. Panic replaced confusion instantly. "Dr. Cole," he breathed. The room went silent again. Several trustees stiffened. Chase blinked. "Wait, you know her." Arthur Bennett looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. "Know her," he snapped. "She's the incoming executive dean of Sterling Heights University." The sentence hit the room like a bomb. Phones slowly lowered. Guests stared. One of Chase's friends quietly stepped backward. Another locked his phone screen and slipped it into his pocket. Chase looked suddenly pale. Marina remained calm. Bennett turned toward the crowd. Dr. Marina Cole was appointed by unanimous board recommendation to oversee ethics reform, academic accountability, and institutional investigations effective immediately. A ripple of whispers spread across the ballroom. ethics reform, investigations, accountability. Words nobody wealthy wanted attached to their university. Chase swallowed hard. I didn't know. Marina looked at him steadily. That's the problem. The silence deepened. If you had believed I held power, she continued, you would have treated me differently. Chase opened his mouth, but no words came. The crowd had already shifted away from him. People who laughed seconds earlier now stared at him like a liability. President Bennett quickly removed his jacket and tried offering it to Marina. She didn't take it. Instead, she looked directly at Chase. Your father should hear about this personally. Almost on cue, another figure approached from the far side of the ballroom. Leonard Holloway. Silver-haired. Perfect tuxedo. The kind of presence that made trustees nervous and politicians eager to shake hands. His eyes scanned the scene rapidly. The stained dress. The horrified guests. His son standing speechless. And Marina. He understood immediately. Dr. Cole, Leonard said smoothly, please accept my sincerest apology. His voice carried practiced authority. My son acted like an idiot. Chase stared at him. Dad. Quiet. Leonard didn't even look at him. Then he turned back toward Marina with a polished smile. I assure you this incident does not reflect our family values. Marina said nothing. Leonard continued carefully. I'd like to make amends properly. Perhaps a substantial donation toward your future initiatives here at Sterling Heights. Several trustees visibly relaxed. Money. Of course. That was how problems disappeared here. Leonard named a number quietly. $2 million. A few donors exchanged impressed looks. President Bennett hesitated. The room almost seemed ready to forgive everything already. Marina finally accepted a napkin from a nearby waiter. But instead of cleaning herself, she folded it slowly in her hand. I'm not interested in selling my dignity, she said calmly. Leonard's smile tightened slightly. Of course not. I simply believe misunderstandings should lead to positive outcomes. Interesting. Marina stepped closer. Because I believe consequences should lead to accountability. For the first time that evening, Leonard Holloway's expression cracked. Only slightly. But Marina noticed. So did everyone else paying attention. I think, she continued, we should have a private conversation immediately. Leonard nodded once. Fine. President Bennett led them toward his office, while whispers exploded throughout the ballroom behind them. Inside the office, the atmosphere changed instantly. The polite masks weakened. Marina sat calmly despite wine still staining her clothes. Leonard leaned against the desk with controlled patience while Chase slouched beside him, visibly irritated. President Bennett looked trapped between them. Leonard folded his hands. Let's resolve this quickly. Marina remained silent. I've supported this university for 20 years, Leonard continued. My donations funded research centers, scholarships, housing expansions. And influence, Marina interrupted softly. The room froze. Leonard's eyes narrowed. Excuse me. You didn't donate out of generosity, Marina said. You invested in control. Chase scoffed loudly. This is ridiculous. Marina ignored him. I reviewed preliminary records before arriving tonight. Grade alterations, disciplinary cases disappearing, admissions exceptions tied directly to donor families. President Bennett shifted nervously. Marina, perhaps we should discuss this more carefully. No, she said firmly. Then she looked directly at Leonard. I accepted this position because Sterling Heights requested independent oversight authority. Beginning tomorrow morning, I will launch a full investigation into academic corruption tied to donor influence. Silence. Pure silence. Chase laughed once in disbelief. You're seriously doing all this over wine? Marina's gaze snapped toward him. No, the wine simply revealed who you already were. Leonard stepped forward slowly. You have no idea what kind of pressure this institution faces. And you have no idea what kind of person I am. Their eyes locked. Power against power. Neither blinking. Finally Leonard smiled again, but this time the warmth was gone. You're making a mistake. Marina stood. No, your son made one tonight. She reached the door before pausing. One more thing, she said without turning around. This conversation is officially documented. For the first time all evening, Leonard Holloway looked genuinely unsettled. And Marina walked out knowing war had just begun. The next morning the video went viral. Except it wasn't the real video. The clip started after the wine had already hit Marina. It showed her walking aggressively toward Chase, while guests backed away nervously. The internet saw a soaked woman threatening a college student. Not the humiliation that caused it. Not the laughter. Not the cruelty. Headlines spread fast. New dean sparks controversy. Sterling Heights official accused of aggressive conduct. Questions raised about leadership temperament. Marina sat in her office, watching the narrative twist in real time. Professional. Efficient. Coordinated. The Holloways moved fast. Very fast. Her phone buzzed constantly. Anonymous emails. Threats. Demands. Some subtle. Some openly racist. One message simply read, "You should have accepted the donation." By noon, 3 faculty meetings had mysteriously been canceled. Several administrators avoided eye contact when she passed them in the hallway. Students whispered behind her back. The system was already protecting itself. Then came the first betrayal. President Bennett requested a meeting. His office felt colder this time. He avoided looking directly at her. "I think we need to slow things down," he said carefully. Marina stared at him. "Slow down corruption investigations. You're making powerful enemies." "I expected that." Bennett sighed heavily. "The board is nervous. The Holloways are threatening to pull funding." "There it is." Marina leaned back slowly. "The real fear." Bennett rubbed his forehead. "You don't understand how deeply connected Leonard Holloway is." "No," Marina replied quietly. "I understand perfectly." By evening, security escorted her from a hallway confrontation after Chase publicly mocked her in front of students. "Not him." "Sir." Even after he admitted wealthy students manipulated grades. The crowd recorded everything. And once again, the edited clips online painted Marina as unstable. That night the board called an emergency meeting. It lasted less than an hour. 9 votes. Administrative leave effective immediately. Her university access revoked. As Marina exited the dark building alone, her keycard stopped working before she even reached the parking lot. The message couldn't have been clearer. You were never supposed to fight back. Rain began falling lightly as she stood under the campus, lights clutching her evidence folder. Then a voice emerged from the darkness. "Dr. Cole." Marina turned sharply. A young woman stepped from behind a tree near the sidewalk. Late 20s. Sharp eyes. Tense posture. "I'm Naomi Pierce," she said quietly. "And if you still want the truth, you're going to need help." Marina studied her carefully. "Why should I trust you?" Naomi swallowed hard. Because 4 years ago, Leonard Holloway destroyed my academic career after I reported Chase for cheating. The words landed hard. Naomi glanced around nervously. They're watching you tonight. We should leave. 20 minutes later, Marina sat inside a tiny diner across town, surrounded by 4 strangers. A former teaching assistant, a student journalist, an expelled scholarship student, and Naomi. Folders covered the table. Laptops glowed beneath dim lights. We've been collecting evidence for years, Naomi explained. Marina opened one file. Financial transfers, grade changes, emails, threats, bribes. It was massive, bigger than she imagined. They ruined people, the student journalist said quietly. Careers, futures, entire lives. Marina looked up slowly. Why come to me now? Naomi answered immediately. Because you were the first person powerful enough to stand up to them publicly. Silence settled over the booth. Then Marina nodded once. All right, she said, let's finish this. For the next 48 hours, they worked nonstop. Organizing evidence, cross-checking records, preparing backups. The deeper Marina dug, the uglier everything became. Professors pressured into changing grades. Scholarships revoked after complaints. Admissions bought through shell donations. Entire departments manipulated for wealthy families. And Chase Holloway sat at the center of more cases than anyone else. Meanwhile, another gala approached. Sterling Heights' annual legacy celebration. Every major donor would attend. The perfect stage. Naomi connected a flash drive to her laptop. Once this uploads to the ballroom projector system, she said, they won't stop it fast enough. Marina reviewed the presentation one final time. Video clips, bank records, recorded phone calls, signed statements. Enough evidence to collapse reputations overnight. You realize this changes everything, Naomi said quietly. Marina looked toward the window. Rain tapped softly against the glass. No, she replied, this reveals everything. The ballroom glittered again 2 nights later. The same chandeliers. The same donors. The same fake smiles. Only this time, Marina walked through the doors wearing black. No hesitation. No fear. Conversations died instantly. She's supposed to be suspended. How did she get in here? Leonard Holloway stiffened at his table. Chase nearly dropped his drink. Marina walked straight toward the stage. Security moved uncertainly. Then stopped when dozens of phones lifted simultaneously. President Bennett panicked. Dr. Cole, you cannot. Yes, Marina said calmly into the microphone. I can. The projector screen behind her flickered. Then changed. Financial spreadsheets filled the ballroom wall. Gasps spread immediately. These records, Marina announced, document systematic academic fraud, bribery, intimidation, and donor manipulation, operating inside Sterling Heights University for nearly a decade. Leonard surged to his feet. This is absurd. Marina clicked another slide. Audio filled the room. Leonard's voice. Adjust the grade, my son doesn't fail. Another voice protested nervously. Leonard again. Everyone has a price. Shock rolled across the ballroom. Phones recorded furiously. Trustees whispered frantically. Marina kept going. Each piece of evidence hit harder than the last. Altered transcripts, threat emails, secret payments. Then Chase's voice echoed through the speakers, laughing about never writing his own papers. The room erupted. Chase looked horrified. Leonard stormed toward the stage. You think this will survive court? Marina met his fury calmly. I know it will. Then the ballroom doors opened. Federal agents entered. Everything changed instantly. Guests stepped aside as agents approached Leonard directly. One flashed credentials. Leonard Holloway, you are under investigation for fraud, bribery, financial conspiracy, and obstruction. The room exploded into chaos. Chase stared at his father in disbelief. No, this can't. It can, Marina said quietly. Professor after professor began standing. One admitted he'd changed grades under pressure. Another confessed disciplinary reports had been buried. Then another. And another. Years of silence shattered all at once. The machine was collapsing publicly. Leonard looked around desperately for allies. But nobody stepped forward anymore. Not one person. The same donors who once worshipped him now backed away like he carried poison. Agents escorted him toward the exit while cameras flashed nonstop. For the first time in his life, Leonard Holloway looked small. Chase stood alone near the center of the ballroom, trembling with rage and humiliation. My family built this university, he shouted. Marina looked directly at him. No, she replied, people like you corrupted it. Silence crushed the room. President Bennett slowly approached the microphone. Sweat covered his forehead. In light of tonight's revelations, he announced shakily, Dr. Marina Cole will immediately resume her position as executive dean. No applause came. Only acceptance. Because everyone understood this wasn't victory. It was exposure. Then Bennett swallowed hard. Chase Holloway is hereby expelled effective immediately. Chase looked stunned. You can't do that. It's already done. 3 board members resigned publicly within minutes. Others quietly slipped toward exits, hopping. Nobody noticed them leaving. Marina stepped back to the microphone one final time. What happened here tonight is bigger than one family, she said. Her voice carried through the silent ballroom with absolute clarity. This institution forgot its purpose. Education became currency for the wealthy while honest students paid the price. Naomi stepped onto the stage beside her. Then the others. The students who had been silenced. Expelled. Ignored. They were punished for telling the truth, Marina continued. That ends now. She announced reinstated scholarships, independent audits, criminal investigations, complete academic reviews. Nobody interrupted her. Nobody dared. Because the illusion of untouchable power had already shattered. Marina finally stepped away from the podium. Guests moved aside as she walked through the ballroom. Not out of fear. Out of respect. She passed Chase standing completely alone. No friends. No protection. No laughter. Just silence. For the first time in his life, he understood what consequences felt like. Marina continued toward the exit without looking back. The same woman they mocked publicly days earlier now walked out carrying something far more powerful than revenge. Truth. And this time everyone had seen it.